Let me first apologize for the delayed start, but then I'll tell you hello, I'm Shane Seeley and welcome to Final Score, our weekly show where we talk all about those headlines and newsmakers of the week in sports. Tonight, the BSAC zones, the preliminaries of the inter-secondary school sports, well, they're now done and dusted. Which schools are likely to take the titles at next week's finals? Well, we'll answer that question. Also, the Barbados senior men's team, the football team that is, well, they went down 1-0 to Cuba last night in the CONCACAF Cup of Nations. What went wrong? Can they bounce back to win the next tie against Antigua and Barbuda? We'll analyze. But first, let's go to BSAC. Springer Memorial and Harrison College won today's girls and boys titles of the Chafet Frosties BSAC's Shane Brathwaite zone. Today at the Usain Bolt Sports Complex. That's where all the action went down. Springer Memorial and Harrison College completed the task of winning the girls and boys divisions respectively in that Shane Brathwaite zone. Competing on day 2 at the Usain Bolt Sports Complex today, Springer amassed 613.50 points. Second was Harrison College, 338.50, and the Lodge School came in third with 330.5. In the boys, HC were victorious with 521 points. The Lodge were in second on 467, and St. Leonard's boys 324 points gave them third place. In the other zones, well, you remember this one, the Up-and-Ons Combermere School completed the double by winning the boys and girls titles in the Esther zone. Combermere amassed 480 points to win the boys title. Christchurch Foundation were second with 415 and Aline third, 395. And it was the same order in the girls. Combermere finishing with 463 points to claim first. Foundation second, 453, and Aline third with 360 points. And the St. Michael Cougars, they also did the double, winning both boys and girls championships. But in the Frank Blackman zone, St. Michael totaled 544 in the girls, 250 points ahead of Queen's College, who got 294. Third was Coleridge and Parry with 246. And it was the same order in the boys, with St. Michael getting 370. Second again was QC with 336. And again third, CP with 323 points. Joining us live now to look ahead to next week's finals, all the anticipation in the air, is former national athlete, coach, and administrator and analyst Michael Jules. Well, of course, you, our viewers, can make your contributions and answer your questions via social media. The WhatsApp number 228-5562, while our Facebook handles CBC Facebook, well, CBC Barbados, or cbcnews.bb. You can join us there. And then you can also call live. 228-5562 is the number. Let's go over to Michael now. We got so many questions for you tonight as we saw the zones unfolded. So first off, how does it work? How have the finalists for each event been decided?
Okay, thank you very much, Shane, and good evening to our viewers. Yes, Shane, we had 6 very exciting days of competition, and of course, with this new format, the 3 zones, the Esther Maynard zone, Frank Blackman zone, Shane Brathwaite zone, pretty much the advancement from the zone to the championship. In the hurdles event, the top 2 from each zone plus the next 2 best times, giving us a total of 8 athletes will be advancing to the final. That means that the hurdlers will not have to run twice. They'll just go straight on to the final. In the case of the 100, 200, and 400 meter events, however, the top 4 from each zone automatically qualified for the final along with the next 4 best times. So we'll see semifinals there. So 16 athletes will have to run to earn a spot into that final. The 800 and 1500 meters will be the top 3 from each zone, plus the next 3 best times, a total of 12 athletes. They will also have just one go at it. The relays, the winner of each zone, plus the next 5 best times. So 8 teams advancing to the final. In the jump events, the top 3 from each zone, plus the next 3 best distances, totaling 12 athletes, will be advancing to the final. On Wednesday, we'll have the traditional, what has become the traditional 400-meter semifinals, and then come Thursday and Friday, the program will unfold with all of the finals. So that's basically a look at how the athletes will advance. In those semifinals, there will be two true semifinals, so two heats, and the top three and the next two best will advance to the final.
Well, a number of athletes hitting the track, a lot of them too setting some Carifta standards. Who are some of those athletes that you are really impressed with over these 6 days?
Well, the thing is, Shane, of course, the Barbados Carifta team has already been named. There's a 24-member Carifta team, and
Indeed.
they're athletes from across the board who already have earned the ticket to Nassau, Bahamas. So I think those guys are going to be very cautious in terms of not trying to get hurt. We saw Maskell Beckles from the Lodge School. I think he did not compete in the 400, but he did compete in the 100 and the 200 meters. So a guy like him who was coming off of an injury, it's going to be very cautious as he performs coming up Thursday and Friday. And I think all of the schools, when you look across the different programs, you have a number of athletes who might not be Carifta selectees, but for sure they're now coming up. If we look at the under 13 and the under 15 divisions, for sure, I see some good talent emerging out of there. I'm going to not preempt one of the questions I know you're going to ask me about the Victor and Victrix Ludorum, but I can tell you that I have seen some great talent that once we get them into a structured program, I think once we get back to regular programming from next year, 24-25, that we should see things improving amongst all of the schools.
All right, well, speaking about the schools, we saw some dominance from, of course, St. Michael, but up and on, Combermere, winning both titles, the girls and the boys, in their individual zones. Are these the schools to beat going into the final day?
Yes, I am saying so. I have not completed my entire analysis of the three zones, but I can tell you I was impressed with Springer Memorial over the past 2 days. I was very impressed. And the key to winning these championships would be if you can get two athletes in as many finals as possible. And Springer Memorial, they have a number of athletes, maybe in some cases two athletes who have advanced to the final in the events. But I will say to you, Shane, that I think the champion boys and girls school will come from those schools who were first and second in the various zones. Harrison College boys, they look good. SMS, the St. Michael School, that is, QC, they could be in there. Combermere, Christchurch Foundation, and Lodge. Those are my 6 schools that I think will be vying for the championship in the boys. The 4 that I have vying for the championship in the girls, the St. Michael School, Springer Memorial, Combermere, and Christchurch Foundation. Schools like Coleridge and Parry, the Allen School, and Lester Vaughan, I think they are going to be critical in terms of the championship because they have some good athletes who will steal some points. They will be the stealers. They're going to pull some points away. And as I say, the key is once you can get 2 athletes into a final, you're well on your way to winning that championship.
Right, and it's all to run for on that final day. We'll take a pause and then come back with some of your questions, you the viewers, here on Final Score.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
back with you on Final Score as we talk BSAC action and get you ready for the finals coming up next week. And we got some comments for you, Michael, and of course we have some questions as well coming up. So a lot happening there, and as you were mentioning, Springer, it's good to see them back in the action, but the question here, and you answered this at the top, how BSAC decides the zones, and some of the athletes may have faster times if they were matched with some better schools. What are your thoughts there?
Well, the thing is, even when you look at NAPSAC, I know what NAPSAC has done. They just randomly they put all the schools into a bag and they just started to pick randomly. The thing is, at the end of the day, the better athletes will emerge, I think, regardless of the situation. So I just shared with you what the advancement procedure is.
Yes.
So even if you have a Shane Seeley who is fast, Shane Seeley wins.
He's faster, sure,
in his zone, which is a slow zone, but he still advances. So it doesn't matter how slow the others are. The thing is, as I said, the top 4 from each zone in the 1, the 2, and the 4 will automatically advance to the final. So in a case like that, you're in a slow zone, you finish first, you advance, and then the faster runners will still eventually meet.
So another question coming to you, Michael, a comment as well. Good to see Springer back in the do for the girls. Should they give St. Michael's a run?
Yes, I said I was very impressed with what I saw coming from Springer Memorial. I think the girls mean business. I think they came in with a plan. And if I'm not mistaken, all of their relay teams are in, and that's a good sign. If you can have all of your relay teams in, that will be from your under 13 to your under 20 plus your 4x4, and definitely that will argue well for Springer Memorial coming down to compete against the St. Michael's School. Yes, it will be a tussle.
I have something to add to that, but before I really want to get in the comments and the questions. Here's another one. We need a national stadium for sure. That's being built. Usain Bolt doesn't have enough seating capacity for everyone. Good to see CBC bringing it.
Yes, and thanks to live streaming and what's not. And I was making the point today on the live stream that, when we start talking about maybe a restructured BSAC, where I would love to see the final of BSAC being held a weekend, because I know there are lots of parents who can't come out during the week because they have to work. But with a new facility and having the event on a weekend, I can see a packed capacity stadium. Of course, yes, UE not able to manage the numbers that you would want. And
right.
I agree. There is a need for a new stadium. I think everyone in Barbados agrees with that.
And even so, that comment there, the track at the UWI is wearing down. What times do you expect on the slower side of things?
Yes, I don't expect to see any real fantastic times, to be honest with you. So far, like the fastest time in the 100 I've seen is 10:82, I believe, for under 20 boys. So yes, we have to look at that as well. Making sure that the athletes are safe on the track also. But Shane, I just want to mention here 2 athletes who, in my opinion, are going to be really outstanding. In the under 17 girls category, Anaya Nurse from the Allen School. She was extremely impressive. She won, not only did she win the 1, the 2, and the 4, but she broke the zone record in all 3 of those races. And then we come to the under 15 boy, Aidan Moore from Harrison College. I'm safe to say he's going to win the Vic Ludorum. He's doing 4 events, the 2, the 4, the 8, and the long jump. I don't think he's going to be beaten. 22.85, 51.41, 209.67. And those are fantastic times for an under 15 boy. Wow. So I'm quite sure that Aidan Moore, maybe next week around this time, we will be saying congrats to Aidan Moore. Victor Ludorum, under 15. Great performance from him so far. He was quite impressive.
And Maskell Beckles of Lodge needs to drop one of the events for Carifta. The schedule seems to be a bit difficult. Doesn't allow him to give 100% to the 100, 200, and 400. Your thoughts?
Well, yes, it's hard, but I don't believe he's doing all three events. Like I said, at the meet, he didn't do the 400. So, yes, decisions have to be made. It's very hard. The last guy, I think, who tried the 124 was from Lester Vaughan. I called his name today. He still has a record. But I think he was the last person who tried Dario Allen. I think he might have been the last person to try that 124. But it's very hard to do at Carifta level. Very hard. And I don't think that he will do those three events.
So last thing you got to do, you got to call a winner for the boys and a winner for the girls.
As I said, at this stage, really, I can't call. But
no, Michael, no.
In a couple of days,
you got to go out on a limb here. Go out on a limb. Call it.
I can't make that call.
I'm calling Cobhamere for the boys and Cobhamere for the girls. But I'm
of course, you would say that. I will not say Lodge for the boys and Lodge for the girls. They have a lot of work to do.
Right.
But what I will say to you is, I think the battle is going to be between the St. Michael's School and Springer Memorial for the girls' championship. As far as the boys is concerned, the St. Michael's School, Harrison College, and look out for QC, Cobhamere, Foundation, and that's it for me.
Michael, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate you. You need to call Cobhamere first and foremost. It's always up and on, but we appreciate your time right here with us.
Not a
Final
problem.
Score. Always a pleasure having you on. I'm pretty sure we're going to see you next week as we talk about the finals, the big finals. Of course, we'll tell you about all that action coming up, and you got to watch Sports Night to see it unfold. But after the break, we switch sports to football, and joining us live will be former national player, current coach, and analyst Ronaldo Jilts as we talk about that match between Barbados and Cuba.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Football time on Final Score. Cuba needed just one goal to stop Barbados last night in the CONCACAF Nations League game at the BFA Wilde AstroTurf, playing in front of packed house right here in their League B Group 1 match. Michael Reyes, that's Michael Reyes, you remember the name, well, he hurt us, struck for the visitors inside the first 3 minutes of play from a stubborn right boot to give the Cubans that important and only first goal. It would turn out to be the only goal, as I said, of the game, which also saw the Bajans creating many chances of their own, but they were denied by the defense on each occasion. Let's say good evening now and welcome to Ronaldo Pee Wee Jilts joining us live. Boy, Ronaldo, good to see you, but a bad result for the Tridents. They gave up that early goal. Clearly, that wasn't the best way to start the contest.
Hey, good evening, Shane. Always a pleasure to be on. Yeah, it was a tough pill to swallow, especially after the way we played. I think it's an improved performance from the senior national team, which is a very young team. But I think the guys gave a valiant effort, and maybe we should have come out with at least 1 point from the game. It was actually very pleasurable to see the spectators turn out in the numbers. They were very supportive. But again, we didn't get the result which we so wanted. When we played Cuba the first time in the competition, we fell 3-0. So 1-0 is obviously a significant improvement in terms of the score line. However, I know so many Barbadians will say, oh, well, Cuba had 10 men, but it's most important to also know that this Cuban team is a very experienced, a very disciplined unit. And from my observation, they have a number of players who last came to Barbados in 2018. That was the last time that we would play Cuba here in Barbados. So the experience mattered, and at the end of the day, our boys weren't able to get the 3 points and the opening win for the group.
Now, like looking at the game, it appeared that the Cubans really pressured our defense, but on the other side of things, when you flip it around, the Tridents, the pressure wasn't as on as you would have liked it to be. Was it the strikers, the midfielders? Weren't you getting that transition between midfield to the front, or is it more of the coaches having to go back to the drawing board now?
It was actually quite interesting. Initially, it seemed as though that we were prepared to just offer Cuba a third of the pitch, so we had a bit of a mid-block. Upon my analysis, I recognize that Cuba played a diamond midfield, which is a midfield that's quite narrow, with one holding midfielder, one attacking midfielder, and two players to each side. And that therefore allowed them to control the ball in the central part of the pitch, where we had mainly three players, so it was like a 4v3. When we did decide to apply pressure a bit closer up to the opponent's goal, we were somewhat successful, particularly through Omani Leacock, who each time he applied pressure on their holding midfielder, we were able to dispossess them or force them into error. So imagine at first we were a bit conservative, but then once we had the backing of the crowd and then we recognized that we are capable of applying such pressure, we started to believe and we got some success from it. So perhaps it was an initial game plan, but then in the second half in particular, we dominated, perhaps due to the numerical advantage, but also to the introduction of four forwards. We had our very own golden boy, Thierry Gale, who returned from his stint in Georgia. It was a pleasure to have him back. We had Ryan Trotman, who plays his trade in Lithuania, and we had the teenage duo of Tajio James and Nadre Butcher, who were our best player, our most outstanding players rather, when we played Grenada a couple of weeks ago in St. George's. So I believe if we had these players from the get-go, we could have really caused a lot of challenges for the Cuban team, who, even though they seem organized, they weren't as quick, especially in the wide areas. So having these four players who are all very quick in themselves, perhaps, you never know, could have been BSAC candidates. I gotta get Mr. Jules' analysis. But these four are very quick and very mobile, and it could have caused some issues. And, you know, we have this particular hurdle, and then Sunday we go against Antigua. So you never know, perhaps this was a dress rehearsal. Yes, we would have liked the 3 points, but it is a team going in a direction. You can recognize the direction. And I believe they will need some time and some support from the Barbadian public.
And the thing is, Cuba were down to 10 men early, and we still couldn't use and press with that advantage. Like,
yeah,
what does that say Cuba, to the strength of Cuba?
Yeah, they say they're very organized, and this is an important part to note that Cuba are actually at the top of the group. Before they were sharing that spot with Guadeloupe, but Guadeloupe fell to Antigua last night as well, 1-0. But Cuba, they are very sound in their organization, and they have a very experienced team. They have a number of players who are playing in the top tier in Europe and also in Central and North America. So they're not a team that can be, I would say, easily intimidated or disorganized. Yes, they did have 10 men, but I think the coach reorganized the team and he made a change in personnel where he brought on an extra defender, went to train the back, plug the midfield, because his interest was more so denying the service more so than the end result. And I think that again, their experience counts. Sorry to reiterate that, but we have a pretty young team where when you look at it, Thierry hold
that thought, because when we come back, we're going to talk about that as we look forward to the Antigua game. We'll take a quick pause and come back with more on Final Score as we talk football. Let's go to the lotteries and then return.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Morning Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Morning Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morningbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
There is no place like home, but over the past year, home has taken on an especially significant meaning for most. At times, staying at home may be limiting, but it doesn't need to be boring. If you're someone who is great at the DIY life and you've made your home a haven for creating and making new things, this is the show for you. Send us an email at morningbarbados@cbc.vb and share how you've been making it from home.
When disaster threatens, it is comforting to know there's a team working to deliver credible, comprehensive, and up-to-date information. A team that is committed to serving you. A team that will be there before, during, and after the disaster. That is Team CBC, here for you this hurricane season.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Morning Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture.
Back with you on final scores. We just reviewed that Cuba and Barbados match. Let's look forward now. The next match we have coming our way, Antigua and Barbuda. And you just mentioned Antigua, they won versus Guadeloupe, 1-0.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, and it fits right in with this question. Barbados football is really poor right now. Antigua will be a handful. What are your thoughts? What do you feel about this Antigua side?
I believe every team in international football is a tough opponent. Antigua actually just won away from home, so that's credit to them. And they moved to 9 points, so they're now within touching distance of qualifying or going into the qualifiers of the CONCACAF Gold Cup, which is our own confederation's major competition. So they will definitely want to get all 3 points against Barbados while playing at home. That game is going to be played Sunday at 3 o'clock at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. And I know in recent times we've been training in cooler, later times at a later schedule. So the 3 o'clock Sunday is going to be a challenge for us somewhat, especially for those players, our players who are primarily based in Europe and North America. As you know, at this time it's very cool where they are. So I believe the climate is going to play a major factor. But Antigua, they too have some players from these places, and they will definitely be impacted upon these weather conditions. Last time we played Antigua, we lost 1-0 with a goal that was scored late, very late in the game. So that's something to consider. So I believe that we could get a good result here, or if we could get a good result here, it would be perfect stepping stone towards a very positive and progressive step for Barbados football.
Another WhatsApp question for you. Any players on the outside that need to be included?
I usually leave that down to the selectors and down to the coaches. There are plenty of good players who could probably add value to the national team. It all comes down to the coaches' plans, their philosophy, and you often hear Coach DaCosta mentioning about their game model. So it's all about finding the players who can fit into that model. It's not always about finding the best players, but the right players. So there are a couple of players who are actually doing well within the Premier League, and their opportunity will come, and all I can say to them or advise them to do is when that opportunity comes, is to grab it with both hands.
Well, you see that one, Coach Tobacco Beckles got us to the final stage of the World Cup qualifying back in 2000. Maybe we need to go back the route of a Bajan coach?
There are, I believe...
controversial stuff here, man.
Yeah, it is a bit. I believe that culture is a major part in football, Shane, and understanding culture, knowing the culture and environment and so on. There are so many social variables that contribute to the quality of play and the standard of play. And at that particular time when we had Tobacco Beckles, he identified with the players, he identified with the culture. The total soccer environment at that time was different. But at this particular time, what I could only ask the public to do is to give these particular gentlemen a chance. And the Bajan coaches very much, we do, I mean, I say we, I mean, as a coach now, appointment coach add-on, we have a contribution to make to the national team, even if it's not directly to the team, indirectly with the various players that we provide to the national team, that reflects the clubs and the coaches and everyone else that plays a part within these players who do make the national team. So maybe the chance to have a domestic coach will come, but for the time being, we do have a significant part to play with reference to these players. If I may, like, there's Tajo James, Nadre Butcher, Andre Applewhite, Thierry Gale, Liam Brathwaite, all players who I would have worked with as junior players and still to this day still work with, and I'm not the senior national team coach. We have this relationship, we have this dialogue. I speak to these boys as often as possible. So I believe that we as national coaches, we have that influence, as I said, to provide the caliber of players that would represent us proudly.
Well, listen, we'll have more analysis of the CONCACAF Nations League on Monday. That's a reminder for you viewers with CBC's Match Day Live, and that's with our very own Damien Best. Ronaldo, thank you for the analysis. We really wish all the best for the guys going up against Antigua in the coming days, so we'll look forward to that. We'll be right back here on Final Score with our wrap-up in our Final 60.
When disaster threatens, it is comforting to know there's a team working to deliver credible, comprehensive, and up-to-date information. A team that is committed to serving you. A team that will be there before, during, and after the disaster. That is Team CBC, here for you this hurricane season.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night.
And in our final 60, the first T20 between the Windies and host South Africa, that's tomorrow at 8 a.m. You can catch up with that action on Cricinfo to follow what's going on there. Barbados Pride continue their CONCACAF Nations League campaign. That's against host Antigua and Barbuda at 3 p.m. The basketball season continues this weekend with the semi-finals of the President's Cup on Sunday, a doubleheader at the BCC Gym starting at 4 p.m. and Division 1 netball, that's on as well at the Netball Stadium on Sunday. You can join the crowd there, St. Barnabas versus the Renegades at 6:30 p.m. That's wrap this week for Final Score. You know we'll be back next Friday with more analysis on our show. That's Final Score. I'm Shane Seeley. Good night.